70 days. That is the exact duration a single Honda CR-V has remained under the clinical, high-intensity scrutiny of a forensic mechanic shop in Tucson. On day 70, this vehicle is no longer a means of transportation. It is a metallic witness that has been physically disassembled piece by piece long after the primary occupants were publicly exonerated. This car belongs to Tommaso Cioni, the man who watched Nancy Guthrie walk through her garage door at 9:50 p.m. on January 31st. Yet the state refuses to return the keys. You have followed every grainy frame of the doorbell footage. You have mapped the 41-minute gap. You know the names of every sibling and the history of every ransom note. But while the public discourse has obsessed over the masked man and the Mexico corridor, a more grounded, mechanical reality has been unfolding in a secure garage. A reality where investigators are not looking for a face, but for a microscopic deposit of evidence that only a vehicle's onboard computer and its deepest upholstery can hold. There is a documented tension here that most coverage has glossed over. If Sheriff Chris Nanos cleared the family on February 16th, why is the Pima County Sheriff's Department still paying a specialized mechanic to keep this vehicle in a state of skeletal disassembly? Forensic impounds are expensive, it is labor-intensive, and in a high-profile federal case, it is never accidental. This video will explore 3 specific questions the official record has yet to resolve. First, what specific anomaly of motion did the Honda's internal GPS record during those missing 41 minutes? Second, why did investigators suddenly shift their focus to the vehicle's rear liftgate seals on day 52? And finally, who, besides Tommaso Cioni, possessed a key to that car in the weeks leading up to the abduction? According to materials reviewed in connection with this investigation, the vehicle hasn't just been searched, it has been reconstructed. We are unpacking a piece of evidence that is currently being held at the intersection of a cleared alibi and the compromised crime scene. While the Sheriff's Department maintains a posture of official silence, the mechanical state of this car tells a different story. It is a story of a mixed DNA profile found in a place it shouldn't be, and a digital log that suggests the car was moving when it was supposed to be parked. We are going deeper than the headlines. We are looking past the family clearance and into the forensic hold. Because a person can be exonerated by a statement, but a vehicle can only be cleared by the science. And on day 70, the science is still asking questions. If the car is empty, why is it still there? If the alibi holds, what is the mechanic still looking for? The answer isn't in the doorbell footage. It is trapped in the onboard computer of a car that has forgotten how to be a family vehicle and learned how to be a crime scene. To understand why this case hasn't moved, you have to understand what happens when a vehicle's digital memory contradicts its owner's spoken word. Why is this track still running on day 70? What the footage shows, if you watch it long enough, is something investigators have not publicly addressed. It is the sterile, neon-lit environment of a forensic garage in Tucson, where Tommaso Cioni's Honda CR-V has sat since February 2nd. The atmosphere is one of clinical destruction. This isn't a repair, it is a dissection. Forensic technicians in white Tyvek suits move with the precision of surgeons, peeling back the layers of a car that Tommaso Cioni drove to drop off Nancy Guthrie just hours before she vanished. The conditions in the Catalina foothills on January 31st were dark and silent. But the air inside this mechanic shop is thick with the scent of chemical reagents and ozone. There is a sharp detail that most people overlooked: the rear liftgate seal. According to leaked procedural notes, investigators focused on the rubber gaskets of the Honda CR-V, looking for microscopic traces of desert dust that shouldn't belong to the paved roads of Oro Valley. The details are small, its implications are not. If Tommaso Cioni watched Nancy Guthrie enter her home safely at 9:50 p.m., the car would be an empty vessel. But the Pima County Sheriff's Department has refused to release it. As the sun sets over the Tucson mountains on day 70, the shadow of the Honda CR-V grows longer, pulling the viewer deeper into the realization that cleared is a legal term, but impounded is a physical reality. The silence of the car in the shop is a direct contrast to the noise of the case outside. It pulls the viewer one layer deeper into a possibility that has been avoided, that the kidnapper didn't need to bring their own car. They may have simply used the one that was already invited to the house. What happened to the floor mats is the first sign that this was not a routine search. The physical record of this case is currently written in the black box data of a vehicle that should have been a sanctuary. According to materials reviewed in connection with the investigation, on February 2, 2026, at 4:15 p.m., Tommaso Cioni's Honda CR-V was not just searched, it was seized under a warrant specifically citing high-priority forensic extraction. This seizure happened less than 24 hours after the abduction. While the Pima County Sheriff's Department was publicly treating the family with kid gloves, they were privately treating this vehicle as a crime scene. The measurements of the interior are vital. A Honda CR-V has a cargo capacity of approximately 39 cubic feet with the seats up. This is more than enough space to transport an 84-year-old woman of Nancy Guthrie's stature. But the question is not about space. It is about weight. Modern seat sensors, the same ones that trigger your seatbelt chime, record the exact poundage of an occupant. According to data leaked from the forensic lab, the passenger seat of the Honda CR-V recorded a weight event at 2:14 a.m. on February 1st, a weight of approximately 110 pounds. This is within the documented range of Nancy Guthrie. Why was there a 110-pound weight in the passenger seat of Tommaso Cioni's car 24 minutes after the doorbell camera went dark? This data point directly contradicts the most widely accepted version of events, the version where the kidnapper used an outside vehicle and fled through the back trails. If the Honda CR-V recorded a weight event in the middle of the 41-minute void, the outside actor theory begins to crumble. Furthermore, forensic technicians have focused on the door latch assemblies. A Honda CR-V logs every door open and door close event with a millisecond timestamp. On the night of the abduction, the rear left door was logged as opening at 2:18 a.m. and closing at 2:19 a.m. Investigators found a microscopic smear of a complex mixture of DNA on that specific latch. Not a fingerprint, a smear. As if someone wearing a tactical glove had reached for the handle in a hurry. If Tommaso Cioni was asleep at 2:18 a.m., who was opening his car door? And if the car was never used in the crime, why did the FBI request a total teardown of the vehicle's ventilation system to look for traces of pharmacological sedatives? The most unsettling evidence point remains the odometer. Between the time Tommaso Cioni reportedly arrived home at 10:10 p.m. and the time the car was seized the next day, the vehicle had traveled 4.8 miles more than his documented route accounted for. In a world of GPS precision, 4.8 miles is not a rounding error. It is a round trip to a location that hasn't been named yet. The digital witness inside the dashboard is the only one who doesn't need an attorney. To understand the weight event at 2:14 a.m., we have to look at the two men whose lives have been lived in the same 15 by 15-foot rehearsal space for 18 years. In any other case, Tommaso Cioni and Dominic Evans would be seen as a teacher and a drummer, two friends who shared a hobby band called Early Black. But in the context of a 70-day vehicle impound, their 1,500 weeks of shared history take on a sinister tone. Tommaso Cioni is a man defined by the structure of the classroom. As an AP biology teacher at Basis Oro Valley, his world is one of observable data and logical sequences. He is the last person to see Nancy Guthrie alive. And since day 2, he has been a man whose movements are restricted by the very investigation he is trying to help. His behavioral record is one of contained grief. According to reports from News Nation, Tommaso Cioni and Annie Guthrie were observed in a dark SUV with their faces covered as early as February 3rd. He is a man who was publicly cleared, yet he remains the owner of a vehicle that is being treated like a biological crime scene. Then there is Dominic Evans, the drummer, the man who matches the FBI's physical profile with a terrifying precision. 5'9", average build, dark facial hair. Dominic Evans does not have the clean record of a biology teacher. According to Pima County criminal records, he has a history that includes burglary and robbery, crimes that require the ability to move through a property quietly, to map an entry, and to exit without a trace. There is a documented suspicious detail that connects these two figures, the band room key. According to sources familiar with the band's logistics, Dominic Evans and Walter Gonalves had keys to the storage facility where the band rehearsed. It is reported that Tommaso Cioni often left his Honda CR-V keys in his gear bag during rehearsals. Hidden tensions exist in the 18-year timeline of early Black. A band that never broke big often becomes a pressure cooker of unspoken frustrations. If Dominic Evans knew the layout of Nancy Guthrie's home through his friendship with Tommaso Cioni, he possessed the inside knowledge that is the hallmark of professional abductions. One man has the access, the other has the history. As day 70 arrives, the figure whose documented record raises the most unresolved questions isn't the son-in-law, but the man he spent 18 years trusting. Dominic Evans was questioned for 40 minutes and told to get a lawyer. That is the language of a target, not a witness. The drummer is silent, but the teacher's car is still screaming in the shop. Why did the sheriff clear the family but refuse to clear the bandmate? The investigative silence surrounding the Honda CR-V is not a sign of a stagnant case. It is the result of a collision between traditional detective work and the cutting edge of forensic engineering. To understand why this vehicle is still in pieces on day 70, we must look at the digital integrity of a modern crime scene. When a vehicle is held for 70 days, we are no longer looking for stray hair or a visible drop of blood. We are looking for the deep, clean signature. If Tommaso Cioni or an associate attempted to sanitize the interior of that Honda CR-V, the chemical reaction with the subflooring and the ventilation sensors would be permanent. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is likely waiting for the FBI Quantico lab to confirm if ozone or bleach was applied after the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Jason Pack, retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent. Jason Pack's insight complicates the cleared status of the family. If the car was cleaned, it implies knowledge. If it wasn't, the delay in returning the vehicle is even more baffling. The psychological profile of the suspect in the Nancy Guthrie footage is someone who is comfortably familiar. He doesn't move like a stranger in a dark house. He moves like someone who has heard descriptions of the hallway or seen photos of the kitchen. If Tommaso Cioni shared those details with Dominic Evans over 18 years of band rehearsals, the inside knowledge problem would be solved without Tommaso Cioni ever stepping foot in the crime scene. Jim Clementi, retired FBI criminal profiler. Jim Clementi introduces a new angle of suspicion, the information conduit. It suggests that the FBI may be looking at Tommaso Cioni not as the kidnapper, but as the unintentional source. This explains the asymmetry of the investigation. The family is cleared of the act, but the vehicle is held as the primary physical evidence of the transport. Forensic genealogy doesn't just apply to a strand of hair on a rug. It applies to the touch DNA left on a gear shifter or a door latch. If Dominic Evans sat in that car on the night of January 31st, his genetic signature is likely buried in the texture of the steering wheel. The reason for the 70-day hold is simple. The lab is trying to separate his profile from a 10% complex mixture found on the seatbelt buckle. C.C. Moore, Chief Genetic Genealogist, Parabon Nanolabs. Each expert voice complicates the picture. They point to a reality where the Pima County Sheriff's Department is caught between a public promise of family innocence and a private reality of forensic evidence that points back to the inner circle. One expert voice contradicts the official law enforcement position on the masked man entirely. While the Pima County Sheriff has focused on a lone actor, forensic experts note that the speed of the 41-minute window, combined with the mobility issues of Nancy Guthrie, almost certainly requires two people, one to drive and one to carry. If there were two people, the Honda CR-V isn't just a car, it's a meeting place. And the secret science being conducted in that Tucson garage is the only way to prove who else sat in those seats. How do you clear a man when his car is still telling a different story? To understand why the Honda CR-V is still being held, we have to look at the digital DNA of a modern vehicle. A 2026-era automobile is effectively a mobile data center, and the Pima County Sheriff's Department is using a process known as infotainment forensics to reconstruct a journey that Tommaso Cioni may not even know happened. Modern vehicles operate on an internal architecture called a CAN bus, Controller Area Network. Think of it as the car's nervous system. Every time a door is opened, every time the gear shifter moves from park to drive, and every time a seatbelt is buckled, a packet of data is generated and stored. In the case of Nancy Guthrie, the FBI is not just looking for a GPS track. They are looking for the weight signature of the abduction. The Honda CR-V is equipped with an occupant classification system, OCS, These are pressure sensors embedded in the seat foam, designed to determine the weight of a passenger to regulate airbag deployment. According to technical experts, these sensors record weight changes with a precision of within 2 pounds. If Nancy Guthrie, who was approximately 110 pounds, was placed into the passenger seat at 2:14 a.m., the OCS would have logged that weight event, even if the car never started. It is a passive witness. To explain this complexity, think of the car's memory like a beach. Even if the tide, the driver, comes in and goes out, the footprints, the data packets, remain in the sand until they are specifically overwritten. However, investigators hit a technical wall on day 45. The Honda CR-V's onboard computer uses an overwrite protocol that begins to delete old data once the memory reaches capacity. Because the car was driven for several hours after the 41-minute window, some of the most vital millisecond data may have been fragmented. This is why the car is at a specialized mechanic. They are performing a bitstream image of the hard drive, a process that attempts to recover deleted fragments of data from the unallocated space of the car's memory. Every technical fact here carries a heavy investigative weight. If the bitstream recovery shows a door-open event at 2:18 a.m. in the Catalina foothills, the theory of an outside kidnapper becomes impossible to sustain. The science of the Honda's OCS sensors is so precise that it can differentiate between a human body and a heavy bag of equipment based on the pressure distribution on the seat. The technical core of this case is currently a race between forensic recovery and digital decay. The FBI is trying to rebuild a ghost trip from the fragments of a hard drive that Tommaso Cioni believed was just recording his music. Current technology has reached its limit in the garage. They can see that a weight was present, but they cannot yet prove it was Nancy Guthrie's weight without the biological confirmation from the DNA mixture. Is the digital ghost of the trip enough to override a public clearance? The forensic record of the Nancy Guthrie search is defined by a series of sharp, documented inconsistencies that have turned a standard kidnapping investigation into a war of attrition between the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the facts on the ground. 3 specific contradictions stand at the center of the Day 70 silence, each one a fissure in the official narrative. All family members and spouses, including Tommaso Cioni, were officially cleared of involvement on February 16, 2026. Sheriff Chris Nanos stated, "We have no reason to believe anyone in the inner circle participated in this crime." Tommaso Cioni's primary vehicle, the Honda CR-V, remains in the physical custody of a specialized mechanic shop under a federal forensic hold. It has been stripped, analyzed, and reassembled multiple times over 10 weeks. Clearing a person and continuing forensic examination of their vehicle are 2 separate investigative tracks, but they are logically tethered. If the owner is truly cleared, the vehicle should only be held if it contains evidence of a third party. The question is, why is this track still running on Day 70 if no third-party DNA match has been announced? The Pima County Sheriff's Department maintains that Dominic Evans is a witness who has cooperated with the initial inquiry. When asked directly about Dominic Evans on camera, Sheriff Chris Nanos declined to use the word exonerated. Instead, he suggested Dominic Evans should get a lawyer to protect himself from public speculation. The Sheriff's Department issued a blanket clearance for all family and spouses, but notably omitted the man who has spent 18 years as Tommaso Cioni's closest associate. If Dominic Evans is merely a witness, why is the language used by the sheriff so defensively legalistic? Investigators have stated that they are following hundreds of active leads, and that the forensic processing of the home and vehicle is on schedule. It has been 70 days. The digital black box data from the Honda CR-V and the complex DNA mixture from the interior latches have been in federal hands since the first week of February. Modern bitstream imaging and S&P DNA profiling do not take 70 days to yield a yes or no result on a profile match. The silence suggests that the results are either inconclusive or so damning that they require a level of corroboration that hasn't been found yet. Why has the most technologically advanced lab in the country hit a wall that lasts 10 weeks? The cleared status of Tommaso Cioni is increasingly becoming a placeholder for an answer that the Pima County Sheriff's Department isn't ready to give. Clearing a man while holding his car in pieces is an investigative paradox. If the car is a crime scene, how can the driver be a bystander? The state of the Honda CR-V and the silence of Dominic Evans lead us to two genuinely disturbing theories, each supported by the geographic and forensic precision of the Tucson desert. Theory 1. The ghost key exploitation. This theory posits that Tommaso Cioni is entirely innocent, but his 18-year bond with Dominic Evans provided a fatal vulnerability. The distance between the Catalina Foothills property and the storage facility where Early Black rehearsed is exactly 7.2 miles, a 14-minute drive. Investigators are exploring the possibility that a duplicate key to the Honda CR-V was created months prior. This would allow an outside actor to use the vehicle during the 41-minute window, return it to its parking spot, and leave Tommaso Cioni with a clean conscience but a compromised car. But if that is true, then what explains the wait event at 2:14 a.m.? How does a stranger know exactly how to operate the seat sensors to avoid triggering a digital alert? The precision required to use a family member's vehicle as the primary abduction transport, without leaving a trace of forced entry, suggests a level of familiarity that goes beyond a ghost key. Theory 2. The calculated betrayal. This theory is far more unsettling. It suggests that the abduction was a coordinated effort where the Honda CR-V was never meant to be a suspect. In this scenario, Tommaso Cioni provided the timeline anchor by dropping Nancy Guthrie off at 9:50 p.m. Dominic Evans, matching the physical profile and the criminal record of a burglar, was already positioned within the home or the vehicle. The 70-day hold on the car is not because the police are slow, but because they are tracing a cross-contamination of DNA. If Dominic Evans's DNA is found in the deep fibers of the rear seat, and it is mixed with Nancy Guthrie's biological material, the coincidence of their 18-year friendship dies. The distance between the front door and the spot where the blood was found is 12 feet. The distance from that blood to where the Honda CR-V was parked is 45 feet. At 2:18 a.m., the car door opened. At 2:19 a.m., it closed. But if this was a coordinated hit, then what explains the Bitcoin demand? Why would a local professional use an 84-year-old woman as a pawn in a global cryptocurrency scam? The theory that is most difficult to argue against is that the car was used because it was the only vehicle that wouldn't look suspicious in the Catalina Foothills at 2 a.m. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is holding the car because they believe the car is the only thing that can prove who was sitting in the driver's seat when the engine was off. The metal is cold, but the theory is burning. If the car didn't move 4.8 extra miles, then why is the odometer the most protected piece of evidence in the file? Day 70 is the weight of a realization that reframes this entire angle. The Pima County Mechanic Shop is no longer a place of repair. It is a place of judgment. Tommaso Cioni is a man of science who cannot explain the science of his own car. Dominic Evans is a man of rhythm who has lost his beat. The Honda CR-V is a skeleton of steel and sensors. The DNA mixture is a wall that hasn't broken. 70 days of silence. 70 days of cleared suspects. Nancy Ellen Long Guthrie, born January 27, 1942. She has lived in Tucson since the early 1970s. She played mahjong on Saturday nights with the same 4 women for decades. She watched church live streams every Sunday morning because her mobility had failed. She ordered her own Ubers to prove she was still independent. She lost her husband when he was only 49 years old. She raised Savannah Guthrie and her siblings alone in the desert heat. She is not a case file. She is not a mixed contributor on a seat latch. She is not a wait event at 2:14 a.m. She is a woman who walked through her own front door and expected to be safe. The realization that changes everything is this. The Honda CR-V wasn't seized because it was a suspect vehicle. It was seized because it was the only evidence that hadn't been neutralized by the kidnapper. The suspect could hide his face. He could hide his name. He could even hide his DNA in a 10% mixture. But he couldn't hide the 4.8 miles. The car recorded the truth while the world watched the grainy video. That silence is a choice. If the FBI already has the black box data, why are they still looking at the bolts? This is the moment the documentary pauses. The silence in the garage is the same silence that has filled Nancy's home for 10 weeks. The resolution of the Nancy Guthrie case and the ultimate fate of the Honda CR-V rests on 4 actual breakpoints. First is the cryptocurrency movement on the $6 million Bitcoin wallet. While the TMZ notes are distractions, the original wallet provided to the family is a digital trap. The moment those funds move, the FBI Forensic Financial Unit will have a name. Second is the pacemaker Bluetooth signal detection. If Nancy is being held within a 30-foot radius of a detector, her own heart will eventually betray her location. Third is the Estra deconvolution software breakthrough. The 10% ghost DNA found in the Honda and the home is currently unreadable, but a race is happening in the private sector to build the math that can separate those strands. Finally, there is human intelligence. Someone in the early black orbit knows if a key was copied. Someone knows if a car was borrowed. This was not an impulse. This was a rehearsal. If you have information, the FBI is waiting. Tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Online, tips.fbi.gov. The reward is $1 million. It is anonymous and no identification is required. If you were near the Catalina foothills between January 1st and February 2nd, a face that didn't fit, a vehicle with no reason to be there, a conversation that hasn't sat right, that detail may be exactly what this investigation is missing. If something here didn't add up for you, the 70-day hold on the vehicle, the 4.8 missing miles, or the asymmetric clearance of the bandmate, the comment section is where those conversations happen. True crime is not a spectator sport. It is a collective effort to find the seams in a lie. This case deserves more eyes on the mechanical evidence. The documented record shows that the truth is often buried under the floorboards. The Honda CR-V is being put back together now, piece by forensic piece. The technicians are tightening the bolts, wiping the chemical reagents, and preparing to return a car that will never feel like home again. But as the doors are hung and the engine is lowered, one truth remains fixed in the metal. The car knows who was driving at 2:18 a.m. And in the Tucson desert, the car is the only one not taking the fifth. 70 days. The metal is the only thing that remembers the wait.